Comedy is subjective. That's always one of the first things you ever hear when you hear about someone talking about a comedy show. But then you end up watching scenes like this. Is this subjectively funny?
You know what? Has anybody seen my glasses? I don't even think I can...
No, you're wrong if you don't think it's funny. I'm sorry, but Parks and Recreation might be the most objectively funny show that I have ever seen. There's no room for debate. The writing's amazing. I'm just saying in the comments, I love my echo chamber. But even if this isn't your favorite comedy show you've ever seen, what are the shows that are headed into your Hall of Fame when you think of the best comedy shows? Is it Arrested Development, The Office, Seinfeld, It's Always Sunny, Community, maybe even newer shows like Abbott Elementary, or maybe even I Think You Should Leave? Or maybe you're one of those freaks that likes Bazinga! I don't know. All of those shows I really love, except Bazinga! But that doesn't take away from the fact that I think Parks and Recreation, for my money, is already the GOAT. I think this show, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is the best comedy show it's ever been made. Why? Well, it makes me laugh. But in reality, I really do think this show gets overlooked in film circles. People are always overlooking the sitcom format because it's viewed as lesser art in television. But why? Some of the best shows that have ever been made have emerged from that format. Parks and Recreation is better than most comedies, even if they come out of the prestige television comedy style. This is why Parks and Rec is the best comedy ever made. Parks and Rec is a show about the Parks and Recreation Department in Pawnee, Indiana. The show debuted in 2009 and was sort of a spiritual successor to The Office, with the creator of The Office, Greg Daniels, creating this show with Moe's.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that one. What they brought over to Parks and Rec from The Office was the formula that created one of the best comedies ever. Not the individual jokes, not the insane storylines that connect 43 separate storylines and 8 spin-off shows. No, the show succeeds because of the characters.
Oh my god, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
The characters in The Office are why people love that show. Even when it dives into the dumps of season 8 and 9, the characters of Michael, Jim, Scott, and Pam, and all the little goobers that are around The Office is what gives the show its wonderful charm and all the moments I still quote daily.
I'm gonna kill myself!
Wow. Yeah, I would argue Parks and Rec has even stronger characters. The main dynamic of the show is about Leslie Knope, a go-getter deputy director of Pawnee, Indiana, and she wants to make this city better due to her love for this dumpy little American town. And she is constantly, though, in conflict with her stern but amazing boss, Ron Swanson, who is the director of Parks in Pawnee.
I have a permit.
This just says I can do what I want.
I am the director of the Parks Department, and this is a park.
The characters in the show, whether it's Leslie's best friend Ann Perkins, or Tom Haverford, the suave doofus of The Office, the mean intern April Ludgate, or Andy Dwyer, who's just a human golden retriever, or Donna, or Jerry, all of them are just involved in one of the greatest casts that has ever been assembled for television. The one interesting thing though is that these characters, while my favorite characters ever in a comedy show, didn't start off this strong and didn't gel together perfectly. Parks and Rec is interesting because its first season, it's still really struggling to find its footing with some of the characters. You can see this with 3 of the main characters. Leslie Knope is very uptight, a lot like a Michael Scott clone that was just female. She's not really her own thing. Andy was really kind of a douchebag in the first season. He's not the lovable goofball we really know him as towards the end. And then you have Mark Bandanowitz, and there's no nice way to put it, he's just white toast. He might be the most boring character ever created. Jarvis, fire him into the sun. I need a reset. What those 3 characters show is a leftover of the tone and identity of The Office. And it's when Parks and Rec moves out of the more cruel and scathing prank style comedy of The Office, it's able to find its own tone of this bizarrely sweet comedy that comes from the stupidity of trying to work in politics in a Midwestern town. It's such a refreshing show due to how these characters are all tonally, politically, and comedically different, and yet somehow they all are able to mesh together amazingly. And the show prioritizes that identity of having incredible characters when it introduces at the end of season 2, Chris Traeger and human disaster Ben Wyatt. Rob Lowe and Adam Scott were really only supposed to be guest characters on the show, but their role and impact as another force to oppose now Ron and Leslie, until they are eventually integrated into the core cast, leads to the best part of this show: relationships. When you have characters in a comedy cast, they need to have good banter and chemistry. That is why shows like It's Always Sunny have ran for 20 seasons, because seeing these drunks call Dee a bird for over 20 years has never gotten old.
You calm down. You're eating that cheesesteak like some kind of giant bird, you know?
The characters in Parks and Rec are also individually unique and have their own voices that the comedy comes from how they bounce off and into each other. Literally.
Does anyone know if she has any Indian in her?
No one respond. No one say anything.
Why?
I don't think she does.
Would she like some?
No.
And when the characters aren't interacting with other members of the main cast, this show's out here with one of the deepest bags when it has ever come to guest characters. Name one show that has a deeper bag when it has come to a guest character roster. I think the only show that has even come a little bit close is maybe Arrested Development. And don't worry, I will give Arrested Development its props. This is a channel that is based upon the works of Tony Wonder. Parks and Rec brings in all-star actors and directors just for a bit. Paul Rudd, Werner Herzog, Andy Samberg, LeBron's teammate, Straight to Jail guy, Other Ron, and Mike Glorious King, who ends up joining the main cast, Sonic the Hedgehog. And somehow the residents of Pawnee are somehow even funnier. The way Parks and Rec represents the local town in America is one of the funniest and most accurate depictions of America I've ever seen. If you live outside the States and ever wonder what it's like living in maybe the dumbest country in the world, Parks and Rec shows it expertly. Yet even when it's poking fun at America and its citizens, it never feels like it's coming out of a place of hate, rather a place of absurdity. And through every joke and every episode and every moment, the show is able to build up character relationships. Remember the coveted Jim and Pam will they won't they relationship that the entire Office show is basically built around? What if every character in the show basically got their Jim and Pam moment? I think the main reason that I love this show is that I wanted the characters to be happy and to succeed. Parks and Rec builds up these adorable relationships between all of these characters that you love and sends them all off in the perfect possible way, with all of these hilarious dorks finding their person and finding where they belong over the silliness of 7 seasons. That heart that's at the center of this show is one of the big reasons that I think I love it more than nearly any other comedy show. Don't get me wrong, I love comedy that has awful people doing terrible things with no redemption. I love It's Always Sunny, and it's probably my second favorite comedy show of all time, and there's no redemption for any of those characters.
I am not gonna diddle your kids. I'm not like that.
At the same time though, I really appreciate and think there's something really sweet and powerful about seeing these characters that you've really grown to love and who are good people find their own happy ending over 7 seasons and get the ending that they would love. Parks and Rec had one of the biggest luxuries of being a huge success and being able to tell the studio where the finish line was. Just like how this show learned from The Office and how it had to change its characters, it also learned from The Office's biggest failure. For a show to be remembered as one of the great comedies, it can't go out on a whimper. So Parks and Rec dedicates nearly its entire 7th season to writing a perfect ending for every single character. Everyone gets their moment, and it ends with having a comedy show that you wouldn't expect, having one of the best finales ever for a TV show. TV shows are made and broken by their endings. Why are you going to spend 70 hours or whatever watching a TV show if you know it's going to blow up in your face by the end? There are certain shows that I'll never watch because I remember seeing millennials having a mental breakdown on Twitter when Game of Thrones wasn't perfect.
Our starship is in trouble.
Okay, Leslie.
But I think that dedication to creating good television with Parks and Rec and not just trying to be a good comedy has led it to being one of the greatest shows ever made. Parks and Rec is a show that's so well written, so well directed, with characters that I loved so much that whenever you boot up an episode, I know it's going to make my day better. It's like portable sunshine. I can rewatch every episode of Parks and Rec and I will never get tired of it. I can rewatch it infinite times. When it was COVID, I watched that thing in about 6 days, start to back. I couldn't get enough of it. Parks and Rec is good enough to get you through a freaking pandemic. It just might be the best comedy show ever made. And it's also got this scene, which basically proves it.
I came here for the same reason people go to the zoo. Shh. Look at that thing. Nature is amazing.